Hey everyone, welcome to the Roundtable with Vienna Whyte, Season 1, Episode 42. I'm your host, Millie Rouge, from the band Vienna Whyte here in Edmonton, Canada. This Roundtable is a YEG Music production. Thank you all for tuning into the show this afternoon. I would like to individually introduce you to all of our guests we have today. So starting off with Sierra Jamerson from Edmonton, Alberta. We have Jackson Emmer from Carbondale, California. Colorado, sorry, that's my fault. Thank you for the correction. And Micah Rivera from Austin, Texas.
Hey.
Beautiful. Okay, didn't mess that one up. Alrighty, so how's everyone doing this day? How was your guys' weekend?
Doing great. It's pretty good. Super good. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I woke up 25 minutes ago and was like, I feel like there's something that I need to be doing right now. And I checked Instagram, and this was it.
And this was it. I'm glad
slowly still warming up as we're talking.
No, that's totally fair. I'm that same person. When I wake up, I need at least like 25 minutes before I can speak to anybody. So
exactly. So y'all are getting a treat right now. No one's ever seen this before.
Are you guys kind of all situated in your kind of like at homes right now, or is anyone currently kind of out working or anything?
No, I'm totally at home. I'm teaching from home.
Oh, nice.
Living at home. It's all at home.
Yeah, I feel that. How about yourself, Jackson? Are you you're in Colorado there, so are you working from home or?
I'm working from home, and I'm just spending all my time at home, which is actually really nice because I'm usually on tour for like half of the year or more. So I am excited to be able to plant a garden and hang out with my wife and just like wake up and walk out. Like we have a house, so I can go out on the porch, and there's, I feel really lucky that there's places to walk outside, and like I don't have a ton of neighbors. So it's a pretty good place to be quarantined, all things considered.
Absolutely, yeah. I noticed your wife took some of your photos for you. I was tagging her in one of the photos. She's a photographer. Does she come on tour with you when you're kind of going on tour, or she stay at home?
Sometimes, yeah. We kind of dream situation is when we can plan tours together. So she'll do some photo work while I'm on tour.
Right.
But that doesn't happen all the time. So I would say she's with me maybe like a third of the travel time. But
gotcha. Well, it's nice to get some
work
time
in
together.
Progress.
Absolutely. Sierra, I think you should introduce your guest as well today that's with you.
This is Momo. I can't get my cats away from the computer. Anytime I'm on the computer, I've tried shutting them in a different room, and then they just cry and cry so loudly. So
that's so funny.
This is Momo.
Is that like through your teaching too? They'll come hang out with your students? Yeah.
Yeah, I had a conference with a prof who's supervising some of my research. He was all up in there. It was actually really embarrassing, but I don't know.
You're like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to be professional, but I can't.
That's such a cute problem.
I guess. Sorry, guys. I appreciate your flexibility.
Nope, that's amazing. We love it. So I kind of want to jump into talk more about all you guys individually before we jump into our topic today. So Sierra, can you kind of tell us how, if you can, 2 to 3 minutes or less, how you got into the music world and kind of where you started to where you are now today?
I think a lot of musicians will say the same, but like I grew up in a musical home, in a musical family. My grandpa on my mom's side, he used to tour with Santana. On my dad's side, my dad's cousin is Jamerson from Motown. And he had a pretty legendary career as a bass player. So music was always around. My mom was also a professional gospel singer, actually. And so when I was about 10 years old, she started a family band, and we started touring all over Canada and the US singing like really traditional African-American gospel music. So I kind of cut my teeth on that. And then as I got older, I kind of found my own sound and my own musical interests. And so at that point, I went to university, studied music on a post-secondary level. And that was mostly like jazz, contemporary music, R&B, soul. That's kind of where my sound lies. And so then, from then I've just been, recording and writing and touring and doing my own solo project. And about 10 years ago, I started teaching voice and piano, and that was really transformative because I realized what a love I had for working with children and youth. And so now I'm really just thinking about ways to synthesize my creative self with this passion that I found for teaching, and I guess almost like edging towards music therapy at this point, and really kind of exploring the psychological and biosocioemotional benefits to music.
That is so cool. You have such a large experience that I didn't know about you. So that's really cool to hear.
It's been an interesting story.
Like, it's been an interesting life so far. So Jackson, from being from Colorado, can you kind of tell us about your musical journey and kind of how you grew up with music to where you are now?
Sure. I mostly didn't grow up with music. Didn't have a lot around the house or musicians to play with, but I remember when I think I was 13 or 14, somebody put on Jimi Hendrix at an all-school meeting, and I had never heard like electric guitar music like that. I actually grew up in California before I lived in Colorado, so I grew up on, like 80s and 90s hip hop and pop music, so there's not a lot of like electric guitar in that. But anyway, I heard that and I was like, what is that? I got to figure that sound out and like go make it. So I had to ask around. It's a guitar. Ended up saving up and getting a guitar when I was 15, and then just taking like anyone I could find who could teach me anything, and just asking them for help. And so I learned guitar that way. And then when I was in college, I ended up studying music after studying visual art and animation first. I was distracted. I wanted to study music, and my professors were like, well, you should just go for it. Like, why not? Like, you got nothing to lose if you're studying cartooning. So so I started doing that, and I went on my first tour like right after college graduation, because it was the Great Recession, 2009. So there were no jobs anyway, and I was like, well, I'll just plan a 2-week tour around New England, and I just was immediately like hooked. I had a great time. I was with a couple of friends, and we just played people's backyards, like house concerts, weird punk venues, and strange bars, like any place that would listen to our MySpace page and have us on. So that just like hooked me. And over the years, I've done more and more of that. And I think it was in 2017 or 18, I like sort of transitioned from doing any kind of venue that would have me in any kind of gig. And I played a lot of breweries and bar gigs and like honky tonk bands and wedding bands and private parties. And I just like, did anything to sort of make it work. And I was like, okay, I'm only going to play places where people are there to listen to me and my songs. Yeah. And that like kind of fundamentally changed my life and sort of made it look more like a career versus like me just taking some gigs. So I feel really lucky the past few years I've played for people who listen and who care about the songs and are willing to take a chance on my kind of music, which is pretty gentle, quiet. It's just me and a guitar most of the time. So that's what I'm up to now. And usually, like we talked about, I'm on tour, but coronavirus shut that down, and that's fine for now.
Yeah. Gives you the time to appreciate life just the way it is without any working. No, I guess I should have asked this to you, Sierra, as well. What is your genre, Sierra, that you kind of classify yourself under?
I don't like to classify
my
genre, but I don't know. Some blogs will like call my music indie music. I don't know if that's really because it's a little alternative or just because I am not backed by a label, but I would consider my main influences are within like the jazz, R&B, soul.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. For sure. How about yourself, Jackson? What kind of do you classify your genre as?
I play country music, and I often tell people that country music is a pretty big house. So there are a lot of threads to country music. A lot of them I don't like, but a lot of them I really love. And I try to just create my own thread of it, and just call it that, because I've played other genres throughout the years, and that's been a really fun journey. I love learning from like all styles. But when I stand up and I play for people or I share a record, country is the closest thing you could call it.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, Micah, I want to chat with you, being from Austin, Texas. Can you kind of give us your experience and kind of how you've grown up with music in your life and how it relates to you now today?
Well, sort of the same story as he had. I heard Blink-182 one day when I was like 13 or something, and was like, what is this? Because I'd only listened to oldies before that, and like my mind was blown. And I'm like, I want to be that cool, and I want to get girls. Basically, it's about girls, So I picked up my mom's old guitar and taught myself how to play it, and was really bad for a long time. And then eventually, you see me here today. And, that's how it went. But so that's basically how I started. And family didn't have any musical background or anything like that, so it's been a long journey.
So you're kind of self-taught then?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
And Austin's pretty great. There's music everywhere, and everywhere you go, you say, hey, I'm a musician, and someone's like, oh yeah, so am I. So is my brother. So is my
That's
sister.
incredible.
And you're like, great. But yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good to say you're from Austin when you leave Austin. And everyone's really friendly though. And as far as genre, I would say I just write like corny romantic comedy sounding songs for everybody, and then couples laugh and hold hands and kiss each other, and that's what I do. But
I've never actually heard a genre like that before, so that's very cool.
I'm starting it. I created it. I am the first.
Yeah, you're the founder. Absolutely. So thank you all for sharing. That's really cool to learn more about each of you guys individually. You guys have some really cool experience under your belt for sure. So I want to jump into our topic of the day now, which is finding your soul in music. So it sounds very, very deep, but I promise you it's not this crazy. But my first kind of question I have open to all of you is, what do you think music does for people's soul? So Sierra, I don't know if you kind of want to jump it off, and then we'll kind of go down the line there.
Well, I know you said that this is something that doesn't have to be deep, but I guess my ethos is pretty deep on it. I think there's a term that I learned recently. It's called cathexis, and I guess it's an academic term that describes when you focus your concentration on one object or person, and you put all of your mental and emotional and psychological and spiritual, I would say, energy towards it and the expression of that. And I think for me, as a singer especially, I think that music is one of the best ways to experience that channeling, really. Music is so improvisational, but at the same time, it's one of the only practices that utilizes both the left and the right hemispheres of the brain. So it's something that you're completely engaged in and invested in. I think singing especially, and I'll even go as far as to say particularly with the young women that I've worked with, learning to sing helps people find not only their literal voices, but their proverbial voices. And I think there are a lot of people who have not been given an opportunity to share their voice and to share their story and, to add their spirit to our collective consciousness. And so, I think that music, it opens you up. It's a portal from whatever you believe is in the in the universe down here, and on top of that, it's something that unites, right? It's a way that not only are you channeling this energy and creative source, but you're also connecting and expressing with other people. So you're fostering empathy. And I think empathy is one of the most important ingredients in human development, and it's something that we're sorely lacking in on a cultural level in this moment in time. So yeah, I think music is huge and so deep in its ability to transform.
Absolutely. I think now is an interesting time too, because we're all kind of dealing with this feeling as human beings, and we're trying to figure out, we're not seeing as many people as we normally do, and we're trying to kind of figure out how to just be as human beings on our own. And I think it's really tough, but I think music and entertainment is really kind of connecting people together, which is, and people I hope are starting to appreciate the arts a little bit more and seeing it as like, this is a real career. This is a thing that people do, right? So now Jackson, I know you said you sing country music, so I know there's kind of two different genres. Like you said, it's a full house of country music, and I know there's kind of that super pop country sound, but then there's also the Johnny Cash and Dolly Parton side that's really, I think, really purely emotional. I'm kind of curious to know, with your genre, what you feel about with soul and kind of how it has to relate to your genre of music.
Well, I think soul is essential to all good music, regardless of genre. People who listen to music, they're not going to be able to tap into it or enjoy it if the performer or the writer is not sharing a big part of themselves with the listener. Like, you really have to like just let a vein open and pour out what you have to share. And if you aren't doing that, you have to figure out what the block is inside of you and then let it rip, because that's how you connect with people. And connection is like what makes music work, both as for a performer, for it to be a gratifying experience, and for the listener, for them to feel like they're having, I don't know, like that listening to your music is worth their time. And I especially feel like that's true now, because anyone can listen to any song they've ever wanted to at the click of a button. They can listen to music from any era, or at least from the past 100-something years. And your music basically has to be as good as anything else that they could choose in order to have a shot. And that's a tall order, and that's a lot of pressure on modern musicians to have to meet that back catalog. But I think that if you really open up a vein and you're honest and you pour your soul, you find your soul and then you pour it into your music, people will connect. And maybe not everyone in the world's going to connect with it. You may not be as big an artist as some of the pop stars, but there is an audience out there for you, if you deliver stuff that's really good. And part of being really good is being soulful.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that response. Now, Micah, I had a question for you, because I know, and I kind of browsed upon your Instagram and saw you play a lot of live shows, and I've seen people dancing in your videos, which is really awesome. And you said you kind of write music for, you have those couples and they're holding hands when you're playing, which is awesome to hear. So my question is, a lot of humans, I think, if someone ever were to say to you, that song that you wrote really touches me, or it really resonates with me deeply, why or how do you think that we can have this effect on people as musicians? What do you think it is about our music that really just sits home with people when they have that experience?
I would say it's going to sound kind of selfish, but I write music for myself as a way to express what I'm feeling inside. So I never sit down and write something like, I wonder what the listeners are going to want to hear. Let's write a love song. I think this will be romantic. So that just makes a disconnect right there. So basically, and it's hard for me to stick with this, because you always want to write a really good song, but I'm like, whatever you're feeling, just get it out. And sometimes it's hard, because sometimes I'm not feeling anything. My brain's going like everywhere, every which place, but then I'll go out with someone, have a cool date or something. I'll just get home and I'm like, oh, it was so great when blah, blah, blah happened and da, da, da. And so therefore, we all want to be unique, and we are all unique, but you got to also just realize, if you write for yourself, there's going to be a million other people who are just like you, who just went through the same exact thing. So it's not the worst thing to just write something for yourself. And therefore, I get all these messages just daily, just like, oh my God, I listened to your song and I just related to it, how that super cute detail, that's something we do too, and like the Netflix thing, blah blah blah. And it's just like, I just love hearing those messages. But it's because I'm not trying to write something fake or something because the world wants to hear it. It's just like, I'm a normal dude, and there's a bunch of normal dudes out there, a bunch of normal girls, a bunch of normal people, and like we all have the same problems. So I'd say it's just about being yourself and not trying to be some super rock star who's like, I'm so good at songwriting. Just I try to just put myself right in the middle.
That's easy. Now I kind of want to know from your guys' experience, I know, and I kind of want to start with you, Sierra, because I know you said you've been in this family band for a very long time. It sounds like you've been super heavily into music for practically all of your life. And I know there kind of hits that point where you feel burnt out, or you feel like your creative juices aren't flowing as they used to, and it's hard to write. So what are some ways you kind of rejuvenate for your soul and to kind of help boost back up that powerfulness of your writing that you love?
You know, that's actually something that I've really struggled with. For like, there have been years of blockages in my life. When I finished university, first of all, university was kind of a nightmare for creativity because it just like sucked all the creativity right out of me. I went into it so pure, and I came out of it like consumed with the math of music, you know, it's chords and scales and la 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 la. And yeah, it was very like, the idea is to give you language and, you know, more complex language to express yourself musically, but for me it just paralyzed me. I felt like there was too much, so that was rough. From there, I had a lot of material that I had written before I went to university, and I kind of stepped back with it and, like, you know, reharmed it and rearranged it. So there was that benefit. And I mean, I was in my early mid-20s and just, you know, going through a lot of chaotic life experiences and really heavy transitions. So something that I started to do was just to write poetry, because the music itself wasn't coming, but the ideas and the words were still there. And so that helped in some ways. But then when I was really, really digging into my career, so I was teaching full time and I was gigging full time and, you know, representing myself and everything, I got really burnt out. It's hard to do the thing you love 24/7 and have it pay the bills, because you have that added pressure of, you know, I got to pay rent. And that for me took precedence. So it really took my creativity away again. What ended up happening, and it wasn't a conscious choice, was I kind of gave up for a little while, to tell you the truth. And I was like, well, you know, maybe I'm gonna get married and have the white picket fence and the 2.5 kids and the dog and the house and everything like that. And, you know, I have other talents and maybe I can cultivate those. And, you know, I love music, but maybe I just need to put it away for a while. So I took that perspective and I went back to school for something completely different. I'm finishing a degree in developmental psych right now. And throughout that degree, the relationship that I was in, like, completely exploded. All my plans exploded. Everything fell apart, like, completely. And I hit that rock bottom, and what did I have? I had music. And I had a wealth of emotions that I needed to process. So I guess, in a sense, life experience helped me rebuild that creativity and, you know, just slowly reconnecting with fellow musicians and other people who supported me and really cared about me. And oddly enough, being in school and focusing so heavily on something that's not music related made me miss it so badly. And it made me cherish any moment that I had to be musical. So it became really important to me again. But I think a pattern that I see when I look back is finding that balance between how much you can let it consume you and how you can meet other, more practical demands in your life, and what outside influences are affecting your creativity. Like, are you, maybe it's a jazz thing, I don't know, but trying to make music complicated and sophisticated was really limiting for me. And so I was trying to make my sound, I was writing for other people, similar to how Micah said previously that he writes for himself. I think that's really, really important, because I was not doing that and I lost my creativity. But then later on, when it was really just about like desperately needing to get a feeling out, then it became a lot easier. So I don't know if that will give anyone any unique perspective. I don't know how applicable that is, but that's been my journey.
Absolutely.
That was so good. I really like that. Like everything she said, I'm like, that's me.
Oh,
she said it so well.
Yeah. It's a tricky life, Musicians really know how to stretch a dollar, but at the same time, I think we also are people who can't deny that, I guess, that more intuitive side of ourselves. And those competing demands can be hard to balance,
to keep up with.
For sure. It's interesting what you said about trying to write music that's more complicated to sort of prove that you're smart or something. Like I feel like what'd you say?
That I was good enough.
Yeah, that you're good enough. You're right, that you know how to do it, And I think that musicians are kind of a victim of their own, like the limits of their knowledge a lot of times. And there's some saying it's like any fool can make something complicated, but like geniuses make it simple. Like something like that, I think is really true. And also, like, I can play a bunch of stuff, but that doesn't matter because I want my songs to be playable and singable by almost anybody. So like anytime I'm writing them, I'm like,
so
does this pass the test of like, if I learned guitar last week, could I learn this song? Well, maybe it's too hard. And like, not every song has to be like that, but I do think that it's kind of a cool benchmark, and not everybody lives by that, obviously. Like, not everybody has to, but
it's like sort of a little test to write out just a simple, good song. I like to do the like, will this song be cute and relatable in 50 years from now? Because you hear like all the oldies and you're like, this is still so good today, and then you hear like Vanilla Ice and you're like, what? Why was that a thing? So like I try to like write something that's like, do these words kind of uniformly just still sound poetic and kind of good, but also like, cute, simple.
Yeah, I think making something interesting that is also simple is sort of like the real standard. It's really hard to do. Anyone can make something simple that kind of sucks, but like the
story of my life.
the thing that like has been reduced to only its essential elements is like the perfect kind of music. Or one of the perfect kinds of music. So I just thought that was interesting that you brought that up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a kind of like a would you rather question for you guys. In your opinion, what sits right more in your soul when you're first listening to music? So is it the melody that first sits with you, or is it the lyrics that are really honing in for you? I know when I listen to certain songs, sometimes if it's a certain melody that just, or a very specific lyric line, it can completely change the song for me. And I can completely be like, this is my song. Like, this is what describes my soul. So I'm curious to know, in your guys' opinion, kind of what you think. Micah, did you want to start it off?
I would say it's like just a 50-50 mix. Like sometimes it's the melody, sometimes it's the lyrics.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, you just leave Spotify on like shuffle and you're just having a bad day. I mean, you're not really listening to it. You're just driving. You're like, man, life sucks. And then you just hear this one line and you're like, well, that's good. Yeah. And you like repeat it for like 28 more times for the rest of the day. But then other times you just like hear like the melody come in and you're like, this is kind of funky. It's cool. And then you like, you're like singing the song for like the next like week. And then you're like, I should probably look up what I'm singing because I haven't even looked up the lyrics to this yet. And usually it's good, but other times you're like, oh.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
For sure.
It's a mix for me.
Mm-hmm. How about you guys? How about you, Jackson?
Well, I don't mean to like go too left field, but I actually think like rhythm is the first thing that I notice when I'm listening to something. Unless it's like there's some singer-songwriter music or like atonal music that's really not about rhythm, it's more about like texture, timbre, or lyric. So if it's not rhythm, then the lyric hits me first. And the melody, I feel like obviously has to be great, but lots of great melodies start simply and then take you on a journey. So I feel like I have some patience as a listener for like I don't know, a simple or uninteresting melody, as long as I'm tapping my foot or somehow understand the pulse of the music and the lyrics from the get-go. But yeah, I think it's genre dependent. I think it depends on the style of that artist and like what is at the forefront of maybe their mind or how they want you to connect.
Right.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Sierra?
I think I'm not sure, but I really resonated with what Jackson said. I think the first thing that I noticed in a song is definitely like the chord progression, the rhythm, the groove. I like to be able to embody music. I like to physically experience music, and I don't always listen to music that I can dance to, but I like to. And then from there, yeah, I also think it would kind of depend on the genre. Like if I'm listening to instrumental music, then yeah, I care about the melody and how the melody is playing with, the rhythm section. But if I'm listening to a vocalist, for example, one of the first things that I listen for is like their tone, right? And like their style of singing. But lyrics are also really important too. I think when I turn on the radio, I don't hear too many great lyricists anymore. Whereas like if you listen to someone like Joni Mitchell, for example, like I think A Case of You is like her and a guitar. And, she's not like a classically trained singer, but her writing is just so moving. And the way that she creates melodies is so free. So, that's what would really connect to me if I were listening to something like that. But I mean, at the same time, like if I'm listening to Cardi B, I'm just listening for like something that slaps with like a heavy bass line, right? I don't really know what she's rapping about. I know it's like not that deep, but like I'm feeling that bass line, and that's why I like it, right? So I don't know. I guess it would really depend.
Totally. I think it does depend. It's not just a one box fits all kind of thing, for sure. Now, my last question before we head out for today, I want to get kind of advice from all of you. If I was a brand new artist, let's say, who was going through a hard time with music, and I'm struggling to kind of get creative again, I'm trying to find who I am, if you will, or my soul in my music. What advice would you give to this artist? Jackson, do you want to start it off?
So what would the advice be for giving them soul?
Well, not to give them soul, but to kind of get back into their groove and to find kind of who they are as a musician.
Well, I think that practice is not underrated. Practicing doesn't have to be boring. It does have to be repetitive. And practicing includes writing. If you want to be a songwriter, practice includes working on recordings. If you want to be a producer or vocalist, whatever it is, that work is the way through to the progress that most people desire. And there really aren't any shortcuts that I found, except sitting there and spending more time like learning how to do this than anybody else is willing to slug through. I wish there was better advice. I wish there was a silver bullet. But it's practice. There's a John Prine quote. I have him on my wall because he passed away recently, and I've been kind of celebrating his life. But he wrote an essay called "Don't Forget to Write," and he just talks about all the ways he kind of procrastinates and and then like at the end of the day, the way that he writes incredible songs is he sits down and tries, and like that's all you got to do. If you wait for inspiration to come or until you feel like practicing, you are behind. Sometimes it comes, sometimes it'll, you wait 2 years, whatever. You have to create a routine. You have to show up, and that effort is worth so much more when you don't feel like doing it. And then once you're in it, like it's its own reward. So that would be my advice to anyone who,
for sure,
who wants it.
Sierra, did you have kind of any advice to add on top of that?
So the question is, you've lost your creative juice, so to speak, and you're trying to get it back. Try things that are weird and really out of your comfort zone. Like, for example, I met this musician online, this really cool lady from Australia, and she's putting together this program. It's so far out. It's like vocal alchemy and sound healing. And so she's taking music and combining it with this like really, really new age, like woo-y perspective, which is like so out of my frame of reference. So I signed up for it. And it was so cool because she has all these different ideas that I would never have come up with. And yeah, just the way that she like approaches the voice and the way that she thinks about improvisation and freeing yourself as a musician. So that's just a personal example, but I would say like, yeah, just do something totally out of your comfort zone. Like if you love like reggae, listen to like a punk band, or listen to Gregorian chants and listen to like their mode, listen to their modal harmonies, like just like do something so out of your comfort zone, and something will spark your interest. Even if you're like, wow, I really hate that and I never want to ever sound like that. Well, not wanting to do something is good information too. So just like expose yourself to something that's as far out of your frame of reference as you can.
Yeah, I love that. Now, Micah, what's kind of your advice if an artist wants to find their mojo, if you will, back into music?
I really like what what she just said about the new experiences, but in a different sense. I would say I'm coming from the singer-songwriter standpoint, so like having writer's block and stuff like that, and my genre, so whatever I say is coming from that. But go out and do stuff that's like kind of scary. Like this doesn't have anything to do with music, but like go out, try to meet some new people, go to a place in your city you've never been, go on a date, do weird stuff, and then like the thrill and adrenaline of just that whole night after that, you come home and you're just like, oh my God, there's so much just going on in my head. Like I'm gonna write about this.
Yeah, a new experience.
And that's just one way to spark things. Definitely practice, like you said. That's not really finding soul, but it's still, if you want to succeed, you got to practice every day. And as sad as it is in the day and time that we live in, you really have to stay consistent on posting stuff that's interesting and just stay on top of that. I hate Instagram, but like you got to do it. You got to keep it like up to date every single day. And you also have to like know your market and get stuff out to that particular market, because as sucky as it is, no matter how good I am, no matter how great my songs are, if I'm just sitting in my room just putting out a video that the same 100 people see every day, even if it's amazing, I'm always just going to be in my room. So you got to make that push to just have people see it. So
absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Thank you guys so much for your advice on that. That was our last question for the day. We are out of time, but we're so lucky to have had you all on today. If you guys are at home watching this roundtable on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button, because we do post 2 shows Monday to Friday. So there's lots of content for you all to watch. If you want to hear this conversation podcast style instead, just search up the Vienna Whyte podcast to find it. Before we head out, could I get you all just to say your artist name and where our audience can find you on social media? Sierra, can you start it off?
Yeah, I just go by Sierra Jamerson, and I'm mostly active on my artist page on Facebook, but you can also find me on Instagram, Twitter. It's all at Sierra Jamerson.
Fantastic. And Jackson, where can we find you on social media? And can you let us know your full stage name?
Yeah, my full stage name is Jackson Emmer, Emmer. It's a kind of wheat, if that helps you Google it. Jackson Emmer. And yeah, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube. Pretty easy to find via my name on all those things. And I really appreciate people, liking, subscribing, following. But I will say, if you want to circumvent social media, you can also sign up for my email list so that I can directly reach out to you when I've got something going on, which is all the time. But I promise it won't be spammy. It'll be fun. So thanks. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And Micah.
So my name is Micah Marcus. You can find me on Instagram at Micah Marcus, or Facebook. Just type in Micah Marcus, Spotify, all that stuff. And yeah, you should listen to my music and send me a message because I respond to everything. Pretty fun to talk to.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for being on today. Have a great day, everyone. Talk soon.
Nice to meet you all. Thanks so much.
Bye.